The massive ship appeared without warning. One moment, Earth's orbit was empty save for satellites and the International Space Station. The next, a dark shape blotted out the stars, a vessel so large it cast a shadow on the moon. Captain Tom Miller floated to the observation window of the ISS, his mouth dry. 20 years in space had not prepared him for this. The alien craft was sleek, with strange angles that seemed to bend light around it. Its surface shimmered with an oily rainbow effect that made his eyes hurt. "Houston, are you seeing this?" he radioed. Static answered him. All communications worldwide had gone silent the moment the ship arrived. Down on Earth, chaos erupted. In New York, Tokyo, London, and Moscow, crowds gathered in streets, eyes turned skyward. Military bases went on high alert. Fighter jets scrambled, then circled uselessly, unable to reach the visitors' altitude. At the United Nations, emergency sessions convened. Leaders argued, scientists theorized, and generals planned. No one knew what to do. Dr. Jane Addams was eating lunch when her phone rang. As Earth's leading expert in linguistics and communication theory, she wasn't surprised to be called. What surprised her was who called: the Secretary General himself. "We need you in New York immediately," he said, his voice tight with stress. "A plane is waiting." 3 hours later, she sat in a hastily formed committee of scientists, military officials, and diplomats. The First Contact Committee, they called it. "Our priority is communication," said the Secretary General. "If they can talk, we need to listen. If they can listen, we need to talk." General Robert Smith, head of the United Defense Force, disagreed. "Our priority is protection. We know nothing about their intentions." As they argued, a smaller craft detached from the mothership. It descended toward the ISS. Captain Miller watched it approach through his binoculars. Unlike the mothership, this vessel was transparent, allowing him to see the beings inside. They looked almost human, but with gray skin and large, dark eyes. They wore no spacesuits. His radio crackled to life. "International Space Station," came a voice, speaking perfect English with an accent he couldn't place. "We come in peace." The oldest line in the book, Miller thought. He hesitated before responding. "This is Captain Tom Miller of the International Space Station." "Who am I speaking with?" "We are the visitors," the voice replied. "We have traveled far to meet you." On Earth, communication systems suddenly reactivated. Screens worldwide showed the same image, the alien craft approaching the ISS. In the UN meeting room, everyone fell silent as they watched. "They've been observing us," Dr. Addams said quietly. "They understand our languages, our technology. They've been watching for a long time." General Smith's phone buzzed. He stepped out, returning moments later with a grim expression. "Several military satellites have gone offline," he reported. "Only the civilian ones remain operational." Dr. Addams was called to speak directly with the visitors. Using mathematical principles as a foundation, she established basic communication protocols. "We come from a star system you call Epsilon Eridani," the visitors explained. "We wish to meet with Earth's leaders." "For what purpose?" Addams asked. "Exchange. Knowledge. Friendship." The committee debated through the night. Some trusted the visitors' peaceful words. Others, like General Smith, pointed to the disabled military satellites as proof of hostile intent. "They could have destroyed them completely," argued a diplomat. "Instead, they merely disabled them. A precaution, not an attack." Finally, they agreed to a meeting in neutral Switzerland. The visitors accepted immediately. As Captain Miller continued to observe the smaller craft from the ISS, he noticed something odd. The visitors seemed to be concealing activities on the far side of their vessel. Occasionally, he glimpsed what looked like weapons being tested. He reported his concerns, but excitement about potential alien knowledge and technology overshadowed caution. 3 days after the arrival, Dr. Adams boarded a plane to Switzerland. As the aircraft lifted off, she watched military vehicles surrounding the airport. "Do you think they're really peaceful?" asked her assistant. Adams stared out the window at the distant shimmer of the mothership. "I don't know," she admitted. But peaceful or not, our world changed forever the moment they arrived. Little did she know just how right she was. The meeting room in Geneva gleamed with polished wood and nervous tension. World leaders from 12 nations sat around a massive circular table, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and hope. Dr. Jane Addams adjusted her translation equipment as the visitor delegation entered. Their leader, who called himself simply Ambassador, walked with an eerily fluid grace. His gray skin shimmered under the lights. "We thank you for this opportunity," Ambassador said, his mouth forming the words with perfect precision despite its alien shape. "Our civilization has much to share with yours." President Wilson of the United States leaned forward. "We appreciate your peaceful approach, but understand our caution. Your arrival was disruptive." Ambassador's large eyes blinked slowly. "A necessary precaution. Some civilizations respond with violence first. We disabled only your weapon systems, temporarily." "And what do you offer Earth?" asked the Chinese premier. "Medical technology to cure your diseases. Clean energy. Space travel capabilities." Ambassador gestured, and an aide presented a small silver device. "This contains the cure for what you call cancer." The room erupted in excited murmurs. Dr. Adams watched carefully, noting how Ambassador's eyes darted between the Earth leaders, assessing their reactions. Meanwhile, aboard the International Space Station, Captain Miller tracked the deployment of smaller alien craft around Earth. Through his high-powered telescope, he counted 17 vessels taking positions over major cities. "Houston, are you receiving these images?" he asked. "Affirmative, Captain," came the reply. "General Smith is reviewing them now." At the Pentagon, General Smith studied the satellite feeds with growing concern. "These positions aren't random," he told his staff. "They're strategic. Coverage of every major military installation, power grid, and communication hub." In his apartment in Seattle, Jack Wilson, a network security specialist, noticed something odd in his internet traffic. Strange data packets were bouncing between servers worldwide. Working through the night, he isolated one and began decoding it. Back in Geneva, negotiations progressed rapidly. Several nations signed preliminary agreements to receive visitor technology in exchange for access to Earth resources, minimal amounts, Ambassador assured them. During a break, Dr. Adams approached Ambassador. "Your mastery of our languages is impressive. You must have studied us extensively." "We believe understanding precedes friendship," Ambassador replied. His smile never reached his eyes. "And your own language? I'd be fascinated to learn it." Something flickered across Ambassador's face, annoyance? "Perhaps later. It is complex." That evening, Adams used the translation equipment to analyze recordings of the visitors speaking among themselves. What she found disturbed her. Their language contained multiple terms for conquest, subjugation, and harvesting, words that appeared frequently in their conversations. She called General Smith immediately. "I need you to stall these agreements," she urged. "Something isn't right." "I've been saying that since day one," Smith replied. "But look at this." He sent her an image from Captain Miller showing the pattern of alien ship deployment. It matched classic military encirclement tactics. In Seattle, Jack finally broke the encryption on the alien data packet. It contained detailed human biological information and what appeared to be processing instructions. The word extraction appeared repeatedly. His hands shaking, Jack posted his findings on an obscure forum. Within hours, his post was removed and his internet connection died. Looking out his window, he saw two men in black suits approaching his building. 5 days into negotiations, world leaders proudly announced a historic partnership with the visitors. Earth would receive medical and technological advances, the visitors would receive mining rights to uninhabited regions and permission to establish cultural centers in major cities. Dr. Adams received the medical device for preliminary analysis. Under a powerful microscope, she discovered something horrifying. The cure contained microscopic machines that appeared designed to collect human biological data. As she prepared her report, 3 visitor guards entered her lab. "Ambassador requests your presence," one said flatly. "I'll be there shortly," Adams replied, discreetly sending her findings to General Smith before following them. Captain Miller's final transmission from the ISS came at 3:17 a.m. Eastern Time, their opening weapon bays. "God help us all." Then silence fell across the globe once more. 3 weeks after first contact, Earth had changed. Gleaming visitor towers rose in 23 major cities. Their technology had been integrated into power grids, communications networks, and medical facilities. People celebrated the end of energy shortages and marveled at the healing of previously terminal patients. But not all was well. Dr. Jane Addams sat in a windowless room beneath the Pentagon, her face pale with exhaustion. General Smith paced before a wall of monitors showing reports from around the globe. Mysterious illness near the London Tower. 200 cases, Smith said, pointing to one screen. Similar outbreaks near every visitor installation. "It's not illness," Adams replied. "It's data collection. The cures they've distributed contain nanomachines that gather biological information. For what purpose? To understand which humans are most useful." The door burst open. A young lieutenant entered, saluting hastily. "Sir, we've lost contact with the Moscow bunker. And Captain Miller is requesting direct communication." Miller's face appeared on the central screen. Though ordered to return to Earth weeks ago, he had kept the ISS in orbit, maneuvering to avoid visitor patrols. "They're building something in orbit," Miller reported. "Massive structures. They look like processing facilities." "Processing for what?" Smith asked. Miller's expression was grim. "Not for what. For whom?" Across the city, Jack Wilson had gone underground, literally. After escaping the men in black suits, he had connected with others who shared his suspicions. They called themselves the Resistance, operating from abandoned subway tunnels. "I've decoded more transmissions," Jack told his group of 20 hackers and ex-military personnel. "They're not refugees from Epsilon Eridani." That was a lie. He projected a star chart on the wall. "Based on their own navigation data, they come from a system much closer. And they've done this before, stripped planets of resources and moved on." In New York, Ambassador stood before the United Nations, his smooth voice flowing through the hall. "Phase 2 of our partnership begins today. We will establish deeper integration of our technologies and cultures." What he didn't mention were the disappearances, thousands of scientists, engineers, and military personnel who had simply vanished after working with visitor technology. Dr. Adams, having escaped her Pentagon meeting through a service tunnel, now sat in a hidden facility examining blood samples from affected populations. Under her microscope, human blood cells were being systematically altered by the visitor nanomachines. Her secure phone rang, a call from her contact in Geneva. "The visitors lied about everything," the contact whispered. "I found their real database. They're not sharing technology, they're studying us to determine our weaknesses." "I know," Adams replied. "But why? What do they really want?" "Everything. Water, minerals, biological material. Their own world is dying. There, the line went dead. General Smith received reports of visitor ships taking control of nuclear facilities worldwide. When challenged, Ambassador cited safety protocols in the agreements that Earth leaders had signed. Smith called an emergency meeting of remaining military commanders. "We need to disconnect from their systems immediately." "Too late," said the Air Force general. "They've integrated too deeply. Our own weapon systems now require their verification codes." Jack's resistance group grew as more people witnessed disturbing visitor activities. They established a secure communication network using old radio technology the aliens hadn't bothered to monitor. Jack himself hacked into a visitor database, discovering plans labeled Human Processing Facilities. The schematics showed industrial-scale operations designed to extract resources from organic material. Dr. Adams finally confronted Ambassador at a private meeting. "I know what you're doing," she said. "The nanomachines, the disappearances, the processing facilities." Ambassador's pleasant facade vanished. His eyes turned cold. "You have remarkable insight, Doctor. It's why we've let you continue your investigations." "Let me?" "Of course. We've tracked your movements since day one. You've led us to underground groups that might have caused problems." Adams felt cold dread wash over her. "Why tell me this now?" Ambassador smiled, revealing too many teeth. "Because the time for pretense is over." Alarms blared throughout the building. Through the window, Adams saw visitor ships descending over the city, weapon systems glowing. "You see, Doctor," Ambassador said calmly, "we don't need your permission anymore." Across the globe, visitor ships opened fire. The world burned. Visitor ships rained destruction on military bases, government centers, and power plants. Their energy weapons sliced through concrete and steel like paper. Regular broadcasts were replaced by Ambassador's calm voice announcing the necessary transition of planetary control. But humanity wasn't finished yet. Dr. Jane Addams crawled through the rubble of what had once been a government building. Blood trickled from a cut on her forehead, but her grip on the flash drive containing her research remained firm. A visitor patrol ship passed overhead, its searchlight sweeping the street. "Over here," whispered a voice. A sewer grate slid aside, revealing a man's dirt-streaked face. Adams scrambled over and dropped into the darkness, the grate closing above her. "Jack Wilson," the man said, extending his hand. "Resistance." "I know," Adams replied. "Your warning posts saved lives." In the darkness of the tunnels, Jack led her to one of the Resistance's hidden bunkers. People hunched over ancient radio equipment, tracking visitor movements and coordinating survivors. "We've made a discovery," Jack said, pointing to a jury-rigged computer setup. "Their communications use specific radio frequencies. When we broadcast on those same frequencies at high power, it seems to disrupt their systems." Adams's eyes widened. "Their biology, it must be sensitive to those frequencies. My research showed their cells have metallic components." Halfway around the world, Captain Tom Miller piloted his escape pod toward a hidden Air Force base in the Rocky Mountains. The ISS had been destroyed, but not before Miller had loaded its databases with information on visitor ship movements and weaknesses. His pod skimmed treetops, staying below visitor radar. As he approached the mountain ridge, a signal flashed on his emergency band. "Unidentified craft, identify or be shot down. This is Captain Miller, ISS. I have critical intel." Minutes later, he was descending into an underground hangar where General Smith waited. The facility buzzed with activity, one of the few military installations that had survived the initial attack by going dark before the visitors struck. "Their ships have a vulnerability," Miller reported, connecting his data drive to a computer. "The energy matrices that power their weapons overload if they fire continuously for more than 3 minutes." Smith studied the data. "So we need to make them waste energy." Exactly. In bunkers and hideouts across the planet, humanity began coordinating. Old radio technology, hardened against the electromagnetic pulses the visitors used, became the backbone of a global resistance network. Dr. Adams worked with a team of scientists in an abandoned mine shaft, developing devices that could generate the disruptive frequencies. "We need to broadcast these worldwide," she explained. "It won't kill them, but it will weaken them, make them vulnerable." Jack's hackers infiltrated what remained of the Internet, planting viruses in visitor systems. Each small victory gave people hope. The visitors controlled the skies and major cities, but the countryside became a battleground. Their ground troops, biomechanical soldiers with gray skin stretched over metal endoskeletons, struggled in Earth's varied environments. Rain short-circuited their systems. Cold temperatures slowed their movements. 62 days after the attack began, humanity scored its first major victory. A visitor base in northern Canada was overwhelmed when resistance fighters used the weather itself as a weapon, luring the aliens into a blizzard that froze their mechanical components. The base yielded valuable technology and prisoners. From them, Adams learned more about visitor physiology and confirmed her frequency theories. General Smith called an emergency meeting of surviving military and government leaders in the underground Rocky Mountain facility. Representatives from 23 nations attended, either in person or via secure radio link. "We need to coordinate our efforts," Smith urged. "Country by country, we're vulnerable. Together, we have a chance." The Chinese general nodded. "We have already begun adapting our EMP weapons based on Dr. Adams' research." "Russia has resistance cells in every region," added their representative. For 6 hours they debated strategy. When they emerged, they had created the Earth Defense Pact, humanity's formal declaration of war against the visitors. Captain Miller was appointed to lead the newly formed Air Defense Force, training pilots to exploit the weaknesses he had discovered. As the meeting concluded, a runner arrived with news that sent a surge of hope through the room. A second visitor base had fallen, this one in Brazil. The Earth Defense Force had captured intact alien ships. Humanity had begun to turn the tide. 6 months into the war, Earth was a changed planet. Smoking craters marked where cities once stood. Visitor control towers dominated urban skylines. Yet in the shadows between these alien structures, humanity endured, and planned. In an underground laboratory beneath the Alps, Dr. Jane Addams studied a holographic display of a visitor's internal anatomy. After months of research on captured specimens, she had mapped their biological weaknesses. "Their respiratory system requires a specific mixture of gases," she explained to the Earth Defense Council. "They've been gradually altering our atmosphere, but we can use their dependence against them." General Smith, now bearing a scar across his face from a close encounter with a visitor patrol, nodded. "How soon can you weaponize this knowledge?" 2 weeks. Maybe less." Across the room, Jack Wilson monitored his global communication network. What had begun as a handful of resistors using ham radios had evolved into a sophisticated system hidden from visitor detection. Every major resistance cell worldwide stayed connected through his encryption protocols. "We've confirmed the visitors control approximately 40% of Earth's surface," Jack reported. "Primarily population centers and resource-rich regions. But their hold is weakening." Captain Miller entered, removing his flight helmet. Once the commander of a peaceful space station, he now led Earth's growing air force, a mixture of surviving military aircraft and captured visitor ships. "The Australian operation was a success," he announced. "We destroyed their processing center in Sydney and liberated 3,000 captives." The room erupted in cheers. Small victories had become more frequent, each one boosting morale and providing more captured technology to adapt. "There's more," Miller continued once the noise subsided. "We captured their regional commander. He's talking. The intelligence gained proved invaluable. The visitors had engineered atmospheric processors to gradually change Earth's air composition to match their home world, a process that would eventually make the planet uninhabitable for humans. Dr. Adams worked day and night, developing a compound that, when released into the atmosphere, would disrupt the visitors' ability to breathe Earth's air without harming humans. But as the formula neared completion, a moral question divided the council. This could kill every visitor on the planet, argued the representative from India. Is that who we are now? Committing genocide? They came to exterminate us, countered the Brazilian general. This is survival. Jack, who had seen friends and family taken to processing centers, remained silent during these debates. His network had uncovered footage of what happened in those facilities, images too horrific to share widely. As the council argued ethics, the visitors made an unexpected move. Ambassador's face appeared on remaining broadcast systems worldwide. People of Earth, we recognize this conflict has caused suffering. We propose negotiations for a peaceful resolution. General Smith's eyes narrowed. It's a trap. They're losing ground and need time to regroup. Or they're genuinely seeking peace, suggested a diplomatic advisor. There's one way to find out, Jack said, looking up from his console. My team traced the broadcast origin. It's coming from their North American headquarters in the former Denver. Smith began planning immediately. A small team would infiltrate the headquarters during the proposed peace talks, not to negotiate, but to access the Visitor Central Command network. Captain Miller volunteered to lead the mission. Dr. Adams provided devices that would disrupt visitor communications. Jack loaded a specialized virus into a data drive that could cripple their systems if uploaded to their main network. The team departed at dawn, 10 soldiers, Miller, and Jack. They were granted entry to the headquarters under the pretense of peace negotiations. What they didn't know was that Ambassador had anticipated their plan. As they entered the central chamber, visitor guards surrounded them. Did you think we wouldn't be monitoring your primitive communications? Ambassador asked, his false human demeanor replaced by cold efficiency. Jack looked at Miller. They had prepared for this possibility. Now! Miller shouted. Jack activated a device in his pocket. The disruptive frequency that Dr. Adams had perfected blasted through the room. The visitors dropped to their knees, metallic components in their biology resonating painfully. In the confusion, Jack ran to the central console, plugging in his drive as visitor reinforcements poured in. A guard fired, the energy blast striking Jack in the back. As he fell, his hand hit the final command. The upload began. His last words, transmitted to the Resistance Network, "Tell Adams, it worked." 1 year after first contact, the day of reckoning arrived. Jack's sacrifice had not been in vain. His virus had spread through the visitor network, disabling their security protocols and revealing their complete battle plans. Most crucially, it exposed the location of their atmospheric processors, the machines gradually poisoning Earth's air. In the war room beneath the Alps, General Smith addressed the leaders of humanity's remaining forces. Captain Miller stood at his side, while Dr. Adams monitored screens showing global atmospheric conditions. Today, we strike simultaneously, Smith said, his voice steady. Every major visitor stronghold, every processor, every command center. One coordinated attack. The plan had a name, Operation Homecoming. As dawn broke across different time zones, resistance fighters worldwide moved into position. The visitors, still reeling from the network breach, scrambled to reinforce their key installations. Dr. Adams' atmospheric compound was loaded into modified aircraft. Once released into the upper atmosphere, it would neutralize the alien pollution and make Earth's air toxic to visitor biology. This isn't just about survival anymore, Adams told her team as they prepared the compound. It's about reclaiming our world. Captain Miller led the assault on the visitor mothership, still in orbit after all these months. Using captured alien vessels piloted by humans, his squadron approached from the dark side of the moon, avoiding detection until the last possible moment. On the ground, General Smith coordinated attacks across 6 continents. Resistance fighters emerged from hiding by the thousands, armed with weapons that exploited visitor weaknesses. The mothership battle was fierce. Miller's squadron suffered heavy losses, but managed to breach the outer defenses. Miller himself piloted the lead ship directly into the mothership's main hangar. "We're inside," he radioed back to Earth. Proceeding to the central core. Fighting through corridors filled with panicked visitors, Miller's team planted disruptive frequency devices at key structural points. The alien crew, their biology affected by the frequencies, couldn't mount an effective defense. Meanwhile, Dr. Adams' compound was released into the atmosphere. Within hours, visitor ground forces began showing signs of respiratory distress. Their movements slowed, giving human fighters the advantage. By nightfall, victory reports flooded into the war room. Visitor towers fell. Processing centers were liberated. The atmospheric processors shut down. The final blow came when Miller reached the mothership's command center. There, he found not Ambassador, but the true visitor leader, a withered, ancient being connected to life support systems. "You've won nothing," the leader wheezed through a translation device. "We are but refugees from a dying world. Like you, we sought only to survive." Miller hesitated, his finger on the trigger. "By exterminating us?" "By any means necessary. Wouldn't you do the same?" Before Miller could answer, a transmission came through. General Smith's voice filled the chamber. "Captain, we've secured their global headquarters. Ambassador is in custody. The remaining visitor forces are requesting terms of surrender." The war room erupted in debate. Some demanded complete annihilation of the invaders. Others argued for mercy. Dr. Adams, who had witnessed both the horror of visitor atrocities and the moral cost of the human response, spoke up. "If we destroy them utterly, we become what we fought against. They're defeated, let them leave with minimal resources, never to return." After heated discussion, the Earth Defense Council agreed. The terms were delivered: immediate withdrawal of all visitor forces, surrender of their technology as reparations, and permanent banishment from the solar system. To everyone's surprise, they accepted. 3 days later, Captain Miller, Dr. Adams, and General Smith stood on a hilltop watching the visitor fleet depart, a fraction of the armada that had arrived a year earlier. "Do you think they'll keep their word?" Miller asked, the scar on his face catching the sunset's light. "They have no choice," Smith replied. "We're keeping enough of their ships to ensure we can defend ourselves if they return." Adams looked out at the damaged but healing landscape. "The world will never be the same." "No," Miller agreed. "But perhaps it will be stronger." As the last alien ship vanished into the darkening sky, humanity began the long process of rebuilding. Cities rose from ruins. Nations that had once been enemies now worked as allies. The technology left behind accelerated human development by centuries. And deep in space, monitoring stations remained vigilant, a reminder that Earth would never again be caught unprepared. For among the data recovered from the visitor mothership was a troubling final revelation: the aliens themselves had been fleeing from something far worse, something that might, someday, turn its attention to Earth. But that was a problem for tomorrow. Today was for remembering the fallen, healing wounds, and celebrating humanity's most important victory: survival.